What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. Not exactly the easy road I think we were hoping for the second leg. And part of that is down to, Tottenham were not at full strength. So, kind of was hoping that this would just kind of be an easy run of the mill game. No real problems. Figured they would give us a little bit of a fight because, of course, they're going to try. They're going to at least put forth an effort because we know Conte is the type of coach that's going to bring out the best in his teams. Um, so I was expecting a little bit of a fight back. I was not expecting us to not really come to play for most of the second half and some of the first half. It was really just, I don't know, very slow. It felt kind of like we were all over the place, and some of that is down to I don't think Tuchel set us up very well today. Um, I feel like he made some decisions with the lineup and with the subs that weren't the best, and so that's the second thing I'll talk about. Because first of all, I do want to talk about Andre Mariner because, wow, um, I've I don't think I've ever seen a referee so intent on trying to give a team like the game. Like it was actually really incredible. I mean, the first penalty you can kind of forgive him because it was very close. It's one of those because it's right on the edge of the box. You're not really sure. And it's difficult to tell. Like, was it inside? Was it outside? It was a foul because Rudiger has no business going into the slide tackle, and he does catch the back foot, which knocks it onto his other foot. But it's a bit closer. I think the AR probably should have been a bit better in a bit better position to see where the contact happened. But the second one, I don't even know what Mariner sees. It's just, it's not like he had a terrible angle. It wasn't the best angle to see, but you could just tell. Like I actually saw the slow mo, and as Kepa is getting a touch on the ball, he's already like bringing the whistle up to his mouth, like he's ready to give the penalty as soon as Kepa goes to ground. Just like, did you just desperately want to give Tottenham a chance to play? Did you desperately want to give them a game? Like, is that what was going on? You're just like, oh, I'm gonna make sure this is more exciting for the second half, so I'm ready to give this penalty. It was just so weird. And then the third one, of course, is not. It's an offside thing that doesn't happen very often, where the keeper is actually ahead of the last defender. So, somebody's technically offside because there's only one person behind instead of two. And of course, VAR makes the correct decision on all three. But yeah, the first two definitely felt like Mariner maybe was a little intent on like, no, I want to give a penalty today. I want to give Tottenham a penalty. That one's close to being in the box. It's a penalty. That one, you know what? He fell over in the box. It's a penalty. I was just every time somebody went over in the box for Tottenham, I'm expecting them to get a penalty. But yeah, let's talk about Tuchel now because this lineup, I don't know what he's thinking. One of the things that he did well last week is he went with a 4-3-3. And those three in the midfield really dominated that midfield area. They did a great job of sort of smothering any sort of play that Tottenham had going forward, which is why we were so dominant in that first half. And then once the second half began, they stepped up a little bit and they put more pressure on our wings, specifically the one with Alonso and Sarr, which was our weaker side. And that's how they started to take the game and give it a little bit more than they did in the first half and make it a bit more even. This one, he decides to go with a 4-2-4 in a way, because Hudson-Odoi slides out wide and Mount sort of slid out wide as well. And then you have Jorginho and Kovacic holding. And yeah, it showed. We took a lot of possession in the first half and some of the second half, but we really weren't able to do anything with it because we were smothered out because we had two players on the wings and only two in the midfield and then two up top. So it was just, there's no real help in there. It felt very crowded out for us because we didn't have enough players in there. And I don't really understand why he made that decision. On top of that, to go with Sarr as a fullback really doesn't make any sense because he's already not that great of a player. And now you're bringing him up into the attack from the fullback position for some reason. And you think that's going to work. And then the subs in the second half, I don't really understand it. Like, he made a sub, thankfully, after that the goal that was disallowed from Kane because he was offside. I was already thinking before that goal, about 5 minutes before that goal went in, I was thinking it's time to make a change because it's really, they're coming at us, they're putting us under a lot of pressure. We're struggling to deal with the pressure. We're giving the ball away way too much and way too cheaply. We need to make some changes. 3 changes at once. Good. Good to see he's willing to take the initiative and make those changes. However, the 2 players that I felt like should have been off at that point were Sarr and Hudson-Odoi. Guess who finished the game? Sarr and Hudson-Odoi. I don't understand why this always happens, but anytime there are 2 players or 1 player that I'm thinking he needs to go off, he's killing us, they never go off. They never... Jorginho, as many times as I've seen him play poorly, he never leaves in those games. He never gets subbed off in those games. It's like, no. Give him a chance. I'm sure he'll do something else stupid. Just give him a chance. Why is he not being subbed off? Why were Sarr and Hudson-Odoi not being subbed off? Now, granted, Hudson-Odoi did get pushed further up the field because, the way that we made the change, essentially Alonso became the left wing back, and then we went to a back 3 with Silva, Sarr, and Rudiger. So Hudson-Odoi did have a bit better play after those subs because he was further up the field. But Sarr? Why is he still on the pitch? I mean, my God, is he just an awful defender? He let Kane have the best chance in the half, barring the VAR disallowed goal for offside. Why? Because he's standing and watching. The cross comes to the backside. Same thing that happened several times versus Brentford. He's standing and watching it. I've never seen a defender so terrible with a cross ball to their side. Like, he is awful with it. The only time I've seen him do well in the air is whenever the cross comes in from his side and it's at him. But if it's a looped ball to the far side and he's on that far side, he's not going to get there. And Kane, sure enough, wasn't even challenged. Thankfully, Kepa made a great save, but, Sarr doesn't even jump. He just, you got up high in the air. How did you do that? Oh, you jumped? I wish I could jump. I don't know how to. It's just so bizarre to see a defender say, I don't want to defend. And the thing is, people will still say he did well because he has those... He's very similar to Barkley in a way because he has those moments where he just looks fantastic. He'll make a great challenge or he'll do well to win the ball and win a foot race, something like that. He'll do those occasionally, but throughout the game, he's hurting us with his positioning. There was one moment, thankfully it didn't come to anything, but Kane was onside because Sarr is like 10 yards behind the other defenders. You have Rudiger and Christensen here, and Azpilicueta here, and Sarr here. And Emerson, I think it was Emerson Royale, plays a ball in behind for Kane, and Kane's 5 yards behind those defenders, but still onside because Sarr is all the way back here guarding somebody that doesn't even need to be guarded right now. You just step up and they're both offside. But he doesn't understand that. He's not an intelligent defender. So he's way back, keeping Kane onside, and thankfully it was not a great ball, and so it goes out. I don't remember if that's exactly the moment I'm thinking about, but again, there's just too many moments of that. And I know I'm kind of dipping into the individual reviews right now, but from Tuchel's point of view, how can you look at that? How can you look at these issues that he's having, the fact that they're constantly attacking that side, the fact that whenever we win the ball back, it's typically Sarr that's giving the ball away. Sarr and Hudson-Odoi, the reason I wanted Hudson-Odoi off in that moment when the first sub happened is because a lot of Tottenham's great play came from the fact that those two couldn't sort it out. They couldn't figure out how to get out of the pressure, and typically we'd give it right back and then Tottenham would come at us again. So there's no reason to keep Sarr on the field. And yet, he stays out there the whole game. He doesn't get better. Again, he has the bright flashes, which means people will say he's fantastic, but so many moments of he's not doing the right thing. And Tuchel, I don't know why I switch back and forth. I should just stick with one, because I just realized I've said Tuchel today, and I typically say Tuchel. I'll stick with Tuchel. Tuchel, to me, sounds more right, but I'm pretty sure I'm wrong on that. But I don't know. I'm American, so we don't typically pronounce foreign names very well, so I apologize. But yeah, just really no sense in keeping him on the field. Especially when you can stick with the 4-3-3, or even go to a back three, a 3-4-2 or or 3-5-2, and put Hudson-Odoi on the right side as the right wing back because honestly, he's not great on the left side. I've talked about this before. He's not great over there. He has one thing he does well, and that's cut inside. But if the other team knows that, which Tottenham, if they've done their homework, should know, just don't let him cut inside, and he's not really going to give us anything. And he honestly didn't for most of the game. It wasn't until we pushed him further up the field and he had a bit more space to run in behind that he actually created a few more chances. But for the most part, all he really did on that left side was either cut it back and pass it back or take it down the line and then lose it. And that's basically it because he's right-footed and he's better on the right side. So yeah, just weird decisions today. Even the first midfielder to come off. Kovacic playing really well. Jorginho, not great. Gives away the best chance. He's the one that, doesn't really come to the ball very well, and Kepa passes it out to him. A little bit on Kepa, too, because you should know Jorginho's not the best. He's not the fastest, so maybe not a good idea to play it to him when he's got somebody right on his back. But he loses out very easily and creates the best chance, but thankfully Kane's offside, and Kovacic is the first one to come off. Why? Because that's how Tuchel does things. It's whoever's playing well, bring him off. Whoever's not playing well, make sure they play the full 90 so we can see just how bad they are. So, with all that being said, though, let's talk about individuals a bit more. Kepa, aside from that one pass, I thought he did really well today. I mean, the one where VAR overturned the penalty was a great challenge, and then the free header from Kane, he did well to get across and make that save. So, he's looking pretty solid, and with Mendy out for, I think, a couple more weeks, it's good to see that he's really ready to go. He's not cold. He's not looking nervous. He still looks confident. He still looks like he wants to play. So it's good to see because I was very worried knowing Mendy was going to be out. Is Kepa going to be able to step up? And so far he's done well. So hopefully he can keep up that momentum. Christensen and Rudiger in the middle. This is a match made in hell. Because, yeah, Christensen's positioning, as always, poor. Absolutely no idea what he's doing. Stepping into the midfield when he has no business to be, which leaves a ton of space in behind. And just they don't really work well together. Rudiger, I mean, just a lack of decision-making. I don't even know how else to say it. Like, he's a great defender. Ooh, excuse me. He is a fantastic defender. And, yes, he is worth a good bit of money because of his athleticism. However, if you put him in a back two, it's going to be scary. You need a calm head like Silva to keep him under control, because if you don't, then we get stuff like today where he goes sliding in when he has no business to be because he's 5 times faster than Højbjerg is, so he has no business to go jumping, sliding into the challenge and nearly giving away a penalty because that's stupid. And other moments where he's trying to do something clever on the ball and gives it away, or takes too long with his pass and, puts the next player under pressure. Just so many moments of he doesn't really think, he just kind of brashly goes into a challenge or does something stupid. There was another moment, balls up in the air in the Tottenham box in the second half, and instead of going up and winning the header like we know he can, he looks directly at Højbjerg and steps right into him with his shoulder and bumps him out of the way when the ball comes down. I'm like, you didn't even try to make it look convincing. You didn't even try to make it look like, oh, I'm going for the ball. Whoops. Like, no, he just looks directly at him and just throws his shoulder into him and bumps him out of the way. And the ref's like, well, okay, that's the easiest decision I'll have today. So it's just, I don't know. Sometimes he acts dumb. And at times it's okay because we have enough capability around the field that he can be a little wild and get away with it because he's got help, or, sometimes the wildness, it does lead to a good challenge. Sometimes he does win that ball when he goes sliding in. But there are also moments like today where it just doesn't really work and it feels like it's hurting us, and I'm just getting frustrated watching him play. So, yeah, if he ends up, again, with the whole contract thing, don't know where that's going to go next. If he ends up saying, after offering him however much we're going to offer him, because I'm sure we're offering him a good bit, if at the end of all this he's still like, nah, I don't want that, I still want more, you know what, he's not bigger than the club. He's a great athlete, but if he really wants to leave this club where we're, competing for trophies and we're offering him a good amount and he wants to leave, there's some cons to his game that make me think, okay, not the biggest loss. If we got rid of Silva right now and we didn't have somebody coming in, an old experienced defender that's going to come in and kind of calm the back line down like Silva tends to do. If we didn't have that, I'd be worried. But with Rudiger going out, we have Chalobah. I think we've got enough defenders that I don't know if we put buyback clauses when we sold them, like Zuma or like Tomori or like Gehi. I don't know if we put buyback clauses in them, but we could go look to bring some of them back. Because I'm sure some of them would love to come back and fight for a first team opportunity. They mostly left because they didn't think they were going to get into this first team. But if Rudiger goes, they would slip into the first team really well. So I don't think he's like you have to keep him. I think he is important. I think he's somebody that we should try to keep him if we can. But if he's going to be difficult about it, and if he's not going to sign the contract, it's not the end of the world. And today kind of showed those weaknesses to show why it's not the end of the world if we lose him, because he does have some cons to his game as well. But yeah, and it just overall the two of them, like I said, because they have those gaps in their game with Christensen's positioning and Rudiger's craziness, it was a scary defense at times, and there were definitely moments where Tottenham looked to have great chances because of those mistakes. And honestly, I do kind of wonder if it would have been better if Christensen was on the left and Sarr was in the middle, just because then at least Sarr can... The one thing he does decently is defend on the ground, so he could do that part of the game well. But yeah, I guess the only thing to add to Sarr's performance that I didn't talk about before is on the ball. He's not great. I already talked about how he kept giving it away, but yeah, he's the fullback, which means he's going to be getting forward in the attack, and didn't do anything. Had one shot, I think, that was blocked because he didn't really place it. He just hit it with power right at the defender. Aside from that, every time the ball went to that left side, I didn't really expect much to come from it because it was going to Sarr. And that's typically what happened. He would cut it back and then drop it to Jorginho, or he would try to dribble and then get it poked off of him, or the defender would come in and try to take the ball off him, and instead of being able to turn away and pass it, they would get a foot in because he's not great at shielding the ball, because he's not great on the ball. So why is he a fullback today? So yeah, I don't know, just Sarr in general is a player that I don't really understand why he's involved. I get, Chalobah's out, James is out, Chilwell's out, so you're lacking a bit on the wing back and then in the center a little bit. So I get that. However, I feel like after Hall's performance against Chesterfield, I feel like I'd rather see Hall get a chance to see what he can do. On whether he's playing in the back three or he's playing as a fullback, I would like to see if he could get a chance, because he looked better on the ball and better positioning and mentality-wise than Sarr did over the two games. So that's just my 2 cents. I know people will disagree with me because, again, he looks great in the moment. He comes up with some good tackles and some good blocks. But all in all, I don't like him as a defender. I feel like he's got way too many gaps in his game that hurt us, that don't really go recognized, because I think those mistakes haven't been punished very often. They were against Chesterfield. We got scored on by a non-league side because Sarr's positioning is awful, but they don't happen enough for people to really notice what he's doing wrong. As somebody who played defender and knows the position really well, I look at what he's doing and I go, that's not right. So, but yeah, Azpilicueta on the right side was fine today. Nothing really bad or good. Just he was okay. He was just his typical Azpilicueta performance. He was solid. He was good defensively. Had one moment where he slipped because of the wet turf, but all in all, just another solid performance from him, and it's what I come to expect from him. So then Jorginho and Kovacic in the middle. Jorginho, like I said, had some issues today. A little slower. There was more pressure on him, so he didn't really have the freedom to play the game that makes him look better. So it was a kind of a typical Jorginho performance from him, though. Overall, he didn't have any huge mistakes, but it wasn't really helping us and was causing us some issues at times when he couldn't really keep up with the pace of the game. And then Kovacic, I thought, looked good today. Very solid coming out of the midfield. Good build-up play, good feet, quick feet, all of that stuff that he typically brings. And, of course, the one issue that he has is just the lack of creativity in the final third, the lack of ability to create a chance or finish a chance. So it's kind of what I've come to expect out of him. So hopefully we can find somebody that can solve that problem. But for what he is, I mean, he still brings a lot of work in there and a lot of energy. So good to see from him. Hudson-Odoi on the left side. I mean, like I said, he's not really good on the left side. The only thing he can do is just cut in, try to get it on his right foot because he doesn't really have a left foot. And I will say there is something to say about that. Like, you've got to work on your weak foot as well. You've got to make sure that if you have to come down with your left foot and have a cross, you can at least do that competently. And I don't think he can because he never tries it. So I assume he doesn't feel comfortable crossing it with his left foot. So why are we playing him on the left side? And maybe it is so he can cut in and have a shot. But again, if teams know to not let him inside, they're not going to let him inside. They're going to make sure if he tries to cut in, somebody's going to be there to guard it. Somebody's going to be there to cut him off. And that's most of the time what they did today. So I just don't really understand that decision from Tuchel. I feel like it really limits what Hudson-Odoi brings, which is pace and an ability to drive down the line and cut it back across. Then Mount on the right side, also I feel limited whenever you play him further out. I still don't understand. We have two strikers. Why don't we go with an attacking mid behind two strikers? Like, I don't really understand why we're not giving that a go, especially because I feel like Mount and Havertz, honestly, are probably two of the best in that position in the Premier League. To play right in behind the striker, Mount is great having shots from deep, and he's really good on the turn, and he's good about finding little passes in behind, whereas Havertz is very clever about moving the ball around when it gets up into the final third. If you can just get that ball into him and give him space to work, which the forwards will draw the defense away from him, I feel like he could be very good at that, but yet we don't ever try that. We always go with one sole striker in the middle, and then we'll go, players on the outside. And that's basically all we have. So Mount and Havertz are always playing further out wide, which I feel like limits what they can do. So, I don't know, just a little minor gripe. But, I mean, Mount's still working hard. He's still bringing that energy and that work ethic that I love to see from him. So, I do wish he would start producing a bit more in the final third, because that's kind of one of the criticisms that's come against him in the past season or so, is that he had that great season under Lampard where he came out flying, he was scoring, he was creating chances, and it's kind of dropped off a bit recently. And I feel like he had that one game, I think it was against, who was it recently he scored against? He played well, though, and he got a goal or two. It might have, I want to say it might have been Villa. I don't really remember now. But, I mean, good performance, and he got a goal, and he looked good. But since then, again, he's kind of gone in a little bit of a scoring drought. It was a few games. He scored, I think, 3 games in a row or something like that, and he was about to go 4, which it was more than that, because he was about to match Lampard for the record of how many, like, a midfielder scoring in so many games in a row, and he wasn't able to in one game, and since then he has not been able to find the net again. So I don't know. It kind of feels like sometimes he still works hard. He still gives a lot for the team. And because of that, you can't really drop him, because what he brings helps the team as a whole. However, you still want him to find the net because that's something that we need. We need people that can find the net. And if your strikers aren't doing it, you want people like Mount to be able to step up and do it. And recently he hasn't been that player. So just a little disappointed for him there. And then the two strikers up top, Werner, I thought, looked really good again, just constantly busy, constantly working to make the defense be under pressure. And that's what he always brings. And I don't understand why he was one of the first subs off, because I felt like he was creating a lot of our best chances in the second half, which we didn't create that many. So Lukaku, though, overall was fine again. Did drop off a little bit by the end of the game, and I don't know how much of that is just legs, because he's played a lot. So hopefully, I would have liked to see him get a bit of a rest here, and I know we're kind of limited in our striker department, but that's also why I'm kind of like, why did we sell Abraham and loan out Broja and sell Giroud? Like, we only have 2 strikers, and now they're both playing at once, and we're playing several games in a row. It would be nice if we could rest one of them and bring on another striker if we're going to go with 2 up top, but we cannot, because our transfer department has hurt us again. But yeah, definitely, by the end of the game, it definitely looked like the game's caught up to his legs, and he was not really moving around as well as he normally does, at least. As far as the subs that came on, though, Alonso and Silva, and Ziyech all came on in the first 3 subs. And, it didn't really affect the game as much as I wanted it to. And I think part of that was down to we didn't really make any positive changes. They were mostly just kind of changes to change the shape a little bit and change personnel a little bit. And it didn't really affect the game. Ziyech coming on for Mount doesn't really provide much else. Normally it would provide a little bit more creativity, but we're not really getting the ball up the field, so he's not going to be on the ball as much, which means he can't do what he normally does well. Silva coming in, it provides a little bit more organization in the back line, which was needed at the time, and Tottenham didn't really create that many great chances after that change happened, because before it was like they were creating chances almost every 5 minutes. After Silva came on, it became much more like spread out, like 15 minutes they would create a really good chance, but for the most part they were very stifled when Silva came in. So and then Alonso was hoping he might be able to bring a little bit more creativity down that left side that Sarr didn't, but again, we were so pinned in that he was more defending than he was attacking. So I feel like he wasn't really able to do the side of his game that he does well. And then as far as Loftus-Cheek and Conte coming on, they both came on, and at that point the game was very one-sided and it was very open, and they were constantly coming at us. And so I feel like I was hoping to see a little bit more energy in the midfield from Conte and Loftus-Cheek, and hoping they could bring that energy and really change the game in the midfield. But I don't know, and it could be because Conte has been out recently, so maybe he's not quite at full fitness. But he looked a little bit slower than I typically see him, and Loftus-Cheek didn't really come on with like a fight and a fervor. He just kind of came on and filled the gaps, and that was kind of all he did. So I was a little disappointed with those two, because I felt like we were losing the game in the midfield with Jorginho and Kovacic. I felt like those changes would have been good to help us kind of get the game back and bring it back in our favor and actually look to be the dominant team. But instead, it was like neither of them really lived up to those expectations, and it kept being Tottenham's game for until the end of the game. So yeah, I don't know. Overall, obviously good to win, good to go through to the final of the Carabao Cup. It's another trophy. We've already got one this season with the Super Cup, so it'd be great to get another trophy in the trophy cabinet. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we do in the final. But yeah, as far as performances go, though, especially with some big games on the horizon, Man City this weekend, I was hoping this would be another game after a good performance against Chesterfield. This was going to be another one that goes, hey, we've got this, we're comfortable, we've found our footing again, we've got a lot of first-teamers back, and they're ready to play. But instead, I'm kind of a little bit more worried now, because it wasn't a great performance against a not great Tottenham side that are missing their best player at the moment, too. And we narrowly eked out a 1-0 win, and honestly could have been down 3-1 if we were a little bit unlucky on the day. So yeah, it's one of those situations of I'm happy, but also I'm a little worried too. And there were some issues with the game. So, but all in all, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game today? Let me know. We could talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Peace out.